for like a substitute, I think there's actually really big differences between the two. Altec plays like a lot more aggressive and just kind of overall has a better lane phase than Laud. And I think that was the playstyle that they had before was Laud would kind of pick like a safe champion like Twitch and he would just farm, which I think is good and it's, it's not bad to do. But Altec, for example, I think he's willing to play a little more risky champions and then have like a more dominant lane phase.
Yeah, definitely agree with that one. We're going to see if they can turn that into some more victories. Welcome back, of course. Teams are gearing up for round 2 of Team Dignitas versus Team Envy. Heard there's no subs. Altec is still in, so Apollo was giving him a bit more praise as far as the player's concerns, maybe tougher opponents, and we'll see if Dignitas can turn it around for game 2.
Yeah, and Apollo's laning phase was actually pretty strong in that last matchup, even though Envy's mid game was pretty poor. Thinking about that game as a whole of kind of who felt like they had the momentum for the 35 minutes of the game, it's a little bit shocking that Envy are the ones that won the game, but they did have a little bit of a scaling advantage because of the double marksman, and Seraph did play the team fights very, very well down the stretch. So I want to see how Team Dignitas can bounce back now because they started the split so well, and it doesn't feel like they've really been able to bounce back after losses in a lot of their series.
This is a team that was 5-1. They were in the conversation for first place. And they had a week where they played, I think it was CLG and Immortals, and they lost all those contests, and they lost again, and they're losing here. And they went from 5-1 to potentially being 5-5 closing out this 5th week. And it's not somewhere you wanted to go from that direction. We'll see if they can turn it around here, or it's going to be more downhill sliding for the yellow and black here. Now on the blue side as they swap sides, and we are into game 2. Team Envy hoping to recoup some of the earlier energy they had. LeBlanc up the table from Team Dignitas. Zach, whew. What a prediction. Ban from Team Envy.
Oh, baby. Look at Freak, the prophet.
99% of teams do that.
It's definitely a thing that exists on patch 7.12. Will most likely on 7.13, which is currently the live servers. The interesting one, though, is the Braum ban. So good with the double marksman compositions.
Yep. Hakuho's second most played champion of the split, the Braum. He's a very more supportive of a bot laner, as feels like, of the support, I should say, in this split. Fully off the table for the mid lane, no Galley for the top lane as well. Someday actually not losing quite as many tanks as he was in the previous game. And we'll see what comes through, though. Looks like Elise still highly, highly prioritized. Will be first picked here for Shrimp.
Yeah, it's been a good champion for Shrimp in the games that he has played. Also, it is one of Lyra's best champs, although I feel like Lyra is going to be pretty comfortable on Lee Sin. The impact that Lyra had in the early game, probably something they're fearful of, but honestly, I don't see much of a difference between the Elise and the Lee Sin.
I want to see him play Nidalee like MVP Mike Young. Not going to happen, though. Rek'Sai is the crab. Lyra bringing out the Land Shark once again, and a repeated Xayah here for Apollo. So even though it was Team Dignitas, I believe, who had high priority on Jhin earlier for themselves, Apollo doesn't care about that. He still wants to play the same champ as before and says Xayah is my #2 champion.
Yeah, so had some really good team fight presence with that pick there. Tristana has been a pick that has just been steamrolling through the North American LCS so far this split, since kind of jumping back into the meta. A lot of these games, especially between these teams, do go very late. Being able to burst down those turrets can be very effective, and the late game scaling with the static shift rapid fire cannon build is really potent.
And look at that win rate, 11-3 for Tristana. She's about 50-50 in solo queue, and again, it's a 14-game sample. You can't say, oh, she's insane.
Yes, Trish is not a 78% win rate in solo. That would be a little bit crazy.
That would be a little bit, again, sample of 14 games, but certainly has been gaining some respect, and we are going to have Rakan back in. The duo is in. Team Envy have got the Vestians. Hakuho.
Let's go. Third game.
Yep. I'm excited.
Rakan.
I'm excited.
Yeah, it is
it's
good,
a bunch of new champions and reworks for Envy. They're going for just the new stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the duo, obviously, specifically because it allows you to go a much squishier build and then still get out of there after you go and make your initiation. What I want to see, though, with the rest of their picks is things that actually combo well with it. Whenever I see Rakan do well, it's when you're comboing it with something like an Orianna or a Jarvan that can combo really quickly with the initiation. I just get sad when Rakan goes and puts the half a second to 1 second of CC, which is accompanied by very little damage, and then dashes back and the team just shrugs it off.
Right, yeah, you got like a Lee Sin runs around like, I landed a Q, guys. Like, that's cute. Way to go, buddy. Yeah, so we'll see if the follow-up can be there, if Team Envy can get the combo, can get... It's interesting, I heard recently that the fighting game community does not like the term wombo combo being used so much, or I should say specifically the Smash community, because that's not what it's supposed to mean. It's too bad if you appropriated your term, Smash players, I apologize, but It means when you blow up all at the same time.
Yeah. That's what we call it.
That's what we mean.
You're allowed to make your own words.
I know.
As long as it becomes colloquial.
Yep.
That's just the way English works.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. It ain't Falco, but it's going to be a lot of damage here in League of Legends. Thresh picked up, of course, and the final bans coming through. More split pushes removed from Seraph. The Rumble again banned away. Looks like Team Dignitas did not care enough to pick it earlier in the phase. Which is interesting because Tristana was probably not going to be a likely ban, even though it is a somewhat frequent pick for Altec. Either way, though, they don't care that much. They might pick a team fighter later on. Once again, though, it is this Shen. Envy really prioritizing this champion.
Yeah, and I think Team Dignitas just wanted the option to counterpick one lane.
Sure.
That's potentially why they did the Tristana, not to mention
you're right.
they can just say Tristan or Rakan is good. It's a matchup they're okay taking. And now they get to at least counterpick the top lane.
Gonna blind the Orianna, taking that a little bit away from Team Envy. Of course, it's one of the nice mid lane matchups alongside a Rakan. Shen has the CC to jump in as well, but not the damage, so still waiting to see where Envy's burst is going to come from. You really kind of want that alongside the Rakan.
It is so interesting because I feel like Team Dignitas will want to take Jarvan, but the Corki is still up and we could have an incredibly similar team composition to last game.
Yeah.
So they're going to switch it up a little bit.
All right, Kled going to be the matchup. Feels a bit more comfortable doing this one. Has a lot of forward motion available to the team, and we'll see what kind of good team fights someday can engage for the squad. But you're right, it is still a very similar look. The major difference being the fact that it is a Tristana replacing the Jhin, who is an absolute beast of team fight damage output. Trish can certainly be the follow-up they need. As Apollo was saying earlier about Altec, he's a bit more aggressive a player, a bit better of a laner, and it is the Corki, as you mentioned, Jat. So they're going to hope that Xayah, Rakan, and the Corki is going to be enough damage output to combo off of it.
I think it's a nerfed version of Envy's team composition. No Braum, I think, definitely hurts a little bit of the late game. And then Rek'Sai for Elise is arguable of what would be better, but especially if you're just trying to keep people at arm's reach, the Elise would have been better. So I think Team Dignitas has denied them a little bit. Not to mention, now they have a Tristana to kill Shen, whereas previously they only had a Jhin who definitely doesn't kill Shen.
Absolutely agree on this one.
I think Team Dignitas has adapted well, and if the game plays out in a similar way and they get that lead, I think they could close it this time.
And that's really smart. It's fun seeing, because I totally agree with you, Chat, about this champs, like, and Team Dignitas getting a better end of it this time around, of what adaptation looks like. When you understand, like, here's my opponent's goals. If they run double marksman again, here's the most important ban we can get, right? They free up one ban because they're blue side, they don't have to ban Zac anymore. That's obviously pretty nice. But if the Braum is off the table, you've got to play a weaker support here. We take the Elise, you have to play a weaker jungler, and they can make their comp look a little bit more manageable. You're picking different champions as well, being able to melt the front line with a more auto-attack focused bot laner, and we'll see if these small adaptations is going to move the needle enough that Team Dignitas have the scaling they need to win these late game fights. If they can win the same early games, then good for them, but we'll see how it gets played as we get ourselves into game 2.
Yeah, Team Dignitas going to want to bounce back in a big way here, because if they fall, they will tie Envy in the standings at 5-5 after that 5-1 start.
Right. And let's see if Team Envy can close it out, or if Team Dignitas makes it a 4-match slide, 0-2 weeks back-to-back, not where they wanted to be. Up until they lost the split, they were winning it. Team Dignitas on their way down, but hopefully they can turn it around here. Some smart adaptations in Champ Select. This comp looks to be a much better matchup here in the second game against what Team Envy is trying to accomplish. Dignitas certainly, I think the front line is good enough that Altec can just absolutely take over.
Yeah, it's not the same level of frontline as well, though. It depends if Shrimp goes AP or tank, and it also depends how much gold income Big gets, because the Kled won't become that tanky until a little bit later into the game. Generally does start with the Cleaver and Hydra variant of the build, but still a lot of damage they can run through with.
Absolutely the case. We'll see what comes in. Minion spawning in quite a while here, and not the most aggressive of wards just yet. It's pretty standard holding patterns. No crazy trades, nothing to be concerned of just yet. We've been seeing a couple of people go Cinderhulk on Rek'Sai. I know Zyrene's a big Rek'Sai main. We were talking about the champion yesterday. But Warrior's still been a bit more frequent in 7-12. I think we'll see more of that change over on. In about a month's time, or I guess next week at Rift Rivals.
Pretty soon.
Yeah.
Pretty soon.
In about 4 or 5 days. NAE will be the only match of Rift Rivals played on 7.13 at the request of the players. They wanted to play on the patch they'd go into the LCS with, so that happened for them. Here's a leash for a Shrimp. This time around, not getting a heavy leash from Altec and Big, so a different look right here. Meanwhile, Seraph giving a bit of time to Lyra, making it a little bit faster on this Rek'Sai.
A little surprised that they didn't decide to give a better pull with the Trist and the Thresh, since they still kind of came to lane a little bit late, but they kind of feinted a pull.
Yeah.
They've actually won one.
Let's see what comes through in this one. 2.7 thousand, 2.8. No big surprises just yet. As Bush going to come through big. Actually unable to use any relic stacks in the first wave, so he's going to be a little bit slow on generating gold. Not a huge issue. I just always like to maximize it if you can help it. Get that shield on a little bit sooner. Fan vote pretty close. Knockup's going to land. Huge damage on Altec.
Boom.
Insane.
Look at that level 1 trading.
Oh, man.
Not crazy.
I've never seen this before. And you can see with level 2, they zone them out, but Trist and Thresh don't really have any poke tools, so it's not too hard for Envy to sit under turret for a few more seconds. Lyra makes the move over. Looks like he did got the XP Quint. Gets the Rift Scuttle real quick, and they're going to go for a nice little steal, but it's going to be the same on both these sides. The Shrimp will also take a blue.
Both junglers did the exact same thing with the XP Quint to get level 3 off of the Scuttle Crab, and then go into invading Aruba. So we'll see who figures it out first that this is happening, because if they think it's happening, they should actually full clear this side of the jungle.
Right.
Hakuho stops him!
Ooh, does he have the damage? Hakuho! Hakuho, MVP jungler, takes it away. That's our Grom. And of course, it gives Lyra full information, so Lyra can pull through the jungle. It's cute because this pattern basically hard counters a full topside clear, like the Raptors' Red Krugs, because you just take their other jungle out. Of course, they both went for the same pattern, and all is well.
Yeah, destroyed right there, but what's funny is Shrimp went right back. He hit the wolves. Anyway, he knew what was happening.
They can't stop him.
He knew his side of the jungle was getting through. He just missed out on the Grom.
Which, hey, it matters. It's free XP to Hakuho. He's level 3. He's going to feel good for him. Man, how many games do you think, right, ends with a support having 0 monsters killed? Like, more often than not, probably, right, it's going to be 0. And Hakuho crushing the monsters per minute stat for support players right now. Probably number 1.
Yeah, we keep that stat.
Yeah, it's really important for us, obviously. Highly correlated with winning. Sometimes it's Baron steals, who knows what else. Otherwise, a pretty normal holding pattern here. Nice. I love that trade that Altec just did. You get a Castlevania 1 hit from dead, then you put down explosive charge and auto attack at once, and you get not only the E passive, but the E active damage. It's a decent trade. Now, of course, he's got a Doran's shield, so he's full health anyway. Doesn't actually matter in the end game result, but I like the idea. It was smart.
Yep. You guys a little sustain from Rakan as well, so
sure.
The Doran shield laning across the board for Envy. Really, I think they're hoping to scale up a little bit. As we mentioned, it will be difficult for them to do this game with their lack of reliable CC.
Gun shot right there. Lyra want to keep trying to steal away. Someday a bit injured, but he knows Seraph's cooldowns well enough. He's not going to get taunted or killed or anything, so not any major issues yet. Looks like Someday is going to go for his first recall, though. The trade to the mid lane. Keen running out of resources and actually down a bit of farm under Keen. Not terribly, it's only -1. Equal sized minion waves here. Cute. Gets them both. Somebody's back in lane with double longsword. And a refillable.
Building up to the cut life. Now he's going to out-trade Seraph. Seraph wanted to stick around until level 6. He's actually getting really low.
Ooh, wow, actually forced the flash. Yeah, that bear trap would have actually secured his death. So Seraph, he wanted to shove in, wasn't able to, and that is a nice flash lead. This could mean Dignitas get a top lane gank going, but straight to the bot side. Hook's going to land. Well played, hitting Apollo there. Looking for the root, not going to find it. And you can see the sideways jukes to make sure there's no pullback to be had. Big still running away with Altec, and they're going to be just fine.
Yeah, I'd say Envy really heavily out-traded that, actually.
That was nice.
Big and Altec not quite at that point where the Trist has items. Obviously, just the Doran's blade right now.
He's a sustain. And of course, Warlord's Bloodlust on both, so they're going to remain healthy for quite a while. Pretty heavy priority on that Keystone. A little bit of a trade, and out he goes. You can see Hakuho able to play even farther in the front because of the increased range on the shield to jump back because it's a Xayah in the lane.
Yeah, and the jump back is so fast, you could see that Big was trying to play him out of it, but just completely hit the air.
Yeah.
So there is obviously a little bit of play and outplay you can try and do with Thresh versus Rakan, but it is difficult.
It's interesting. You'd almost think that there's like some built-in counter of playing Thresh and a Rakan, but the abilities are so fast, you actually can't reactively play the W or the E. You've got to do it all on prediction, which, hey, if you do, you're sick, but you kind of can't deny the tools on average. It requires an outplay to come in, so not a bad matchup to be Rakan in.
And it's interesting because Flay is usually a really really strong skill for interrupting spells like that because it takes a little while to cast the play. Anytime you essentially issue a new movement order to someone who is in the midst of a movement order, that's how you interrupt them.
Right.
So that's just how fast Rakan is, because something like a Tristana rocket jump, say, is much easier to play out of the air. Or almost any other dash in the game, as far as speed goes, it's pretty easy to play as for a pro threat player.
Absolutely agree. Use fighting game terms some more. It's a long hitbox, I believe is the term for it. Lives in the world for a while. There we go. The Blade Collar gets big, and it forces Summoner Heal out of Altec to keep his Thresh a bit safe. And again, you can see that damage is going to come through. It's pretty reliable. The hit confirm is there, and they get a bit of damage out. Pull out the Summoner. Gold, though, still very close to these two sides. You're at level 6 here and wants to invade into the red buff. Of course, with bot lane priority, they can. Shrimp has Smite, Lyra the same. They're going to get the charm into the knockup. And if everything else they need, first blood is in. Shen was there for good measure. Red buff going to go to Lyra.
Shen was a little excessive at the end of that because the play was set up very well. He's going to hope to get something done, or he's just going to run all the way back up to the top lane. Seraph wanted so badly to be a team player in that one, but it really wasn't necessary because they had everyone in the jungle there to cut him off.
He's got to keep his kill participation stat alive. You can't do anything without Seraph. He missed out on one in the last game. He won't miss out on one here just yet. 8 first bloods that you can see for Lyra. North American King of the Jungle. That's what he was last split. Had the vote for all team, and looks like he's kind of back on form here. A little bit to keep that crush going, hoping that Envy can make it a 2-0 day.
Yeah, I mean, no wards in the jungle. Shrimp can see his red buff being taken. Pretty greedy to contest it there, especially when the bottom lane is missing.
That should never happen, honestly.
Yeah, potentially Seraph ulted in because he thought the only way the jungler's going to contest this is if he has a bunch of people behind him, I better help out. But there was just no one there to help Shrimp.
Yeah, there wasn't an option right there, so a little suicidal by Shrimp, but the way it comes in and Envy make the nice play happen. Good roam by the bot lane, good way to participate, and a nice charm jump for Hakuo. Lucio going to be there for Shrimp and a lantern out, so at least a bit of a trade back, getting something here. Team Dignitas keeping the game pretty close, only 800 apart isn't the worst. As we've seen for the earlier game in this series, there's certainly more to be had. Hakuo is maxing Grand Entrance first. We hadn't seen Rakan as much in the last couple of weeks, but looks like W, the charge knock-up damage skill, that's what he's maxing first here.
Yeah, and Keen is also going for an Orianna build I've seen out of a few other people. Probably Morel and Omicron Rod of Ages. You kind of sit on the Lost Chapter, get your Rod of Ages so it can start scaling. And then you have a whole bunch more mana and a little bit of durability in the late game. I much prefer the Morel and Omicron Ludens build or the Morel and Omicron Leandry's build because I feel like that's an incredibly strong power spike for the Orianna. And you're kind of heavily delaying that when you go with the Rod of Ages. What the Rod of Ages does give you, though, is that little bit more durability. So he was a little worried, I feel like, last game with the Orianna getting zoned out by the Shen or being pushed out of fights, and he's less likely to do that when he has more health.
Absolutely the case. The game I saw earlier was against Syndra, worried about getting one shot for the ulti combo, but it might signify maybe split push duties, having to face up against Corki in a side lane later on, and need to survive Lyra ganking him at some points later on. We'll see what the incentive ends up being, because it's same player, same champion, similar lineup, but a different item build. And
I feel like if you're worried about the Corki damage in his side lane, you should be going Banshee's Veil.
Sure.
Maybe even Banshee's Veil in general this game because of the Rakan initiation, but either way, King gets to do what he wants because he's the one on stage.
Yes, he is. We'll see what goes for him. He's been a good player overall, been in the LCS for quite a while now at this point. Maybe more comes in. Lyra tries to fight the top lane, battling back and forth as Skull runs away, and someday left alone to fight a ninja by himself. Looks like he'll be fine though, stacking the courage back up, and should be all right with himself. Gold 1,000 up for Team Envy, looking at maybe Mountain Drake in the near future. They've got Scuttle control. They've gotten away some of the wards. Warrior enchant done for Lyra. Just now Rudic got this for Shrimp, so similar timing for these junglers. First blood obviously helps. And you see Altec having a much better time in the lane here. Knockup not going to be had. Lantern grabs some time. But it's actually Altec with that 10 farm lead. Some of that is Envy roamed out to go for that red buff kill, but you know, not going to blame Envy for that one. But still good. A nice upgrade for Altec to tie up the farm once again.
Yeah, it definitely feels like both of these teams are looking to scale up for the late game. Very little early game action out of Shrimp and Lyra. Was expecting to see a little bit more of that, but
Shockwave's actually keen, went for damage on the two of them.
huh. Maybe that sets up a Mountain Drake take if they're just trying to force recalls.
I just see it frequently regardless because it's, if you think it's going to be a low action game, you just do it for the damage and you hope that you can buy some time. And the sign of lane dominance, but Shrimp looks like he's going to play for ward control. And yeah, there still might be a chance of the Drake. Problem is, as Envy have recall, they're coming back on the map. They know there's no Shockwave up, but it looks like Envy going to have to give this one away, that everyone realizes the control was enough. And yeah, partial credit to Keen, partial credit to Shrimp and the rest of the team. Taking over that bottom river, and the Mountain Drake is almost definitely theirs. Lyra's around, but not in range. Picked up, nice done. First Drake goes over to Team Dignitas. Lyra wants to knock him. Here comes Shen. Here comes the counter engagement. There is no Shockwave. Keen is low. Here comes the Rek'Sai. Can't hold the wall though as he's in fog of war. There he goes, finds the vision. Couple more shots will do it. One more hit the hook. It's going to be a trade though. The first kill comes in. Now Shrimp is low, flashing to safety. The jump in forward. No CC yet to be had though. Here comes the quickness. Here comes the knock-up. Buying a few more seconds for the squad to jump forward, and they do get the kill. As Shrimp has gone down 2-for-1 favor of Team Envy. Lost the Drake to get a red buff though and a kill plus.
Yeah, boy, did they pile in for that fight. Knowing the Shockwave was down, I think, is one of the things that emboldened them to make such a huge initiation effort. No one really had a particularly large lead before that fight, but they knew a team had just done Drake, blasting around on the blast cone for a while, and taking the red right at the end.
All right, see if that pans out to be more for them. We watch this fight again.
Yeah, I mean, Kled is also not clear right from the start, so the teleport comes in. He just kind of erupts into a 5v5 right off the bat. Altec immediately put in retreat mode because he actually rocket jumped over the back of the Drake pit. He is the reason they're able to get the damage down onto Lyra, but then the chase continues. Watch that initiation from Hakuo. So fast, flash, quickness. Gets the multi-man charm and allows Seraph to pick up the final hit of the kill.
Good enough stuff by him, but now they're re-engaging the top side. Shrimp wants it, and no! Not enough damage dealt. Lyra gets it instead.
Took it down to 13 damage, and then Prey Seeker gets it for Lyra. That one hurts.
It does hurt. Unlucky number 13, didn't have the damage, sadly. I'm sure he's gonna feel that one for a little while. That's actually several times now. Shrimp has just barely missed a jungle monster. Hakuo took his Gromp away. Lyra gets the Prey Seeker to knock down the red buff. And slightly unlucky for Shrimp. 0-2-1 here on him. Again, this game's still really within reach. And that Drake helps make up for some of the gold deficit so far for Team Dignitas. Envy have the package here on the Corki.
And I feel like with the way this game is trending, still being quite slow and the lane's not really opening up huge advantages on each other, the draft is going to end up being really interesting in the late game. One, because of the way we saw it play out last game, since Envy had a very similar team composition, seeing top laner, mid laner, and AD carry, they just switched out the support and the jungle. And then Team Dignitas has basically switched out Jhin for Tristana and Jarvan for Kled for, I'd say, more late game sustained damage. And in the last game, the fights really kind of broke open when Seraph became unkillable and allowed Fury and Apollo a bunch of time to 1v1, as Seraph actually get pretty restful on Sunday. Yeah,
almost the opposite of unkillable, something nearly going down, but remounts in time, and now it's Seraph who's forced to turn tail and run. He's gonna hope the cowardice is gonna work, and it's not Someday. Just gonna get away with it, a great 1v1 kill.
Ooh, and those solo kills can make the draft irrelevant sometimes when you're able to get those 1v1 outplays, because typically at this level, solo kills rarely happen, let alone 15 minutes into the game. Seraph thought he had an advantage with the Ninja Tabi, and the Tiamat thought he'd be able to outtrade, but Someday getting the remount, it's very difficult for a non-high damage champion to actually beat Kled in the 1v1 because he can remount so quickly after being dismounted.
Yeah. It only takes him like 3 or 4 seconds. You have to do the rest of his health bar in that amount of time, and Shren just didn't quite have it. So, well done to Someday. He got the counter pick, of course. The Shen was blinded this time around. He said, okay, let's go Kled, not Jarvan, as you mentioned before, and, you know, to a certain credit, that's champion select, but still great plays by Someday to make it happen.
Yeah, and then to close out the point we had before that fight, basically, if Team Dignitas' carries can cut through the tanks of Envy, which they were unable to do last game, then Team Dignitas is actually going to be okay with dragging this game out.
Yep.
But I can see why Envy would also be okay with dragging it out, because they won the last game with what feels like a very similar team comp.
Absolutely agree. So we'll see who gets the better of it, or if it just comes down to who plays better onto this one. As once again we go into a bit of a slower period, as we're not seeing crazy gank pressure, not seeing crazy roams. It's slower paced teams right now. 5 kills in 17 minutes kind of speaks to that point. Next pick up is Infernal in 1.5 though, so you expect both these teams to play for that soon enough. As there put his last hit under his turret and get a couple of those. First major items are done though. Altec halfway towards Zeal. Already has the Infinity Edge done, so really good damage here. And Apollo actually a bit behind that. No kill, and you know, 9 less farm. Actually has Zeal waiting in base, but hasn't got back to buy it just yet. That'll actually be a very big power spike, because Zeal will give him, I believe it's 10% extra cooldown reduction, and the 20% crit's really valuable also.
Yep. Boost that cooldown reduction of Essence Reaver up to its max.
Yeah, not quite. It'll put it at 10 of the 20 bonus, though.
Doesn't Seal give you...
You have to have plus 30. You don't... Yeah, but you need 30 crit. 30 more crit to get the entire, and it's non-linear. I play a lot of champions, trust me. It's definitely 10% crit off of Zeal. And the other 10% comes from your next 10% crit chance.
Cool.
You get 3% for a Brawler's Glove, 10% for a Zeal, and 30% for a Phantom Dancer or something. Or 20%, sorry, for Phantom Dancer.
Really strange.
Not, yeah, it was to slow down the power spike of Essence Reaver builds to make it non-linear scaling.
30% CDR right away.
Yeah.
So it's not super easy.
Yeah. And Apollo now knocking down a bit of the bot lane turret. Did manage to get this turret down and forces the quick retreat. Keen, though, here to defend. 3v2 on this side. A nice play into the box. Here comes the attempt at Featherstorm, but the shotgun wasn't there. Here comes the follow-through. And here comes Shen to buy a bit more time. But Someday charge to the front line. No target to be found just yet. Someday a bit injured, though. Has to get played back in. He's going to be dying for this one. Comes in to save a teammate, but loses his life for it. The selfless Seraph going to go down.
Someday making the collapses when it counts right there, stuffing that engage. Also the patience of Keen Shockwave kind of baiting out Apollo's Featherstorm.
And gonna buy a bit more on this one as they keep retreating back. And 700 gold lead. Infernal Drake alive. Team Dignitas gonna knock down mid with Altec. The Drake is there as they wanted as well, and very close to that mid lane, not quite killing it yet.
Yeah, but so much of the damage has been done. Mountain Drake already there. Infernal Drake on the way. Should not be contestable by Envy, and Dignitas start to take this game a little bit. They even have the Rod of Ages completed on Keen's mid laner, so it's going to be a powerful push coming to the mid lane here.
The push in for the turret. Altec getting a bit saved. He's got the lantern, and that was really nice, though. He knew the ult was down. There's no way to instant stun him. And I love that, the tenacity to say, I know I killed the turret, I know they can't kill me, I'll lantern now. Well played on both fronts by Team Dignitas.
Yeah, that's now 3 turrets to 1, and Envy doesn't have that many tools for starting team fights. They really just only have the tools to scale in the late game. Yes, Hakuo could go in to start a big one. He would actually need Seraph to be taunted, to be ulting in on him so they can get some type of crazy chain going, but that's just a lot of things that have to come together to get the clean initiation against a Team Dignitas team is going to be hopping all around and sending a lot of flanks at them.
Well, the flanks can continue right now. The gold has been tied back up. It's been mostly farm for Team Envy, but the extra turret for Team Dignitas right now. We'll see what comes in next into this one. It's actually mostly Lyra with Giant Rek'Sai farm, because every single lane down the line has less CS, and yet despite that, the team with less turrets basically equal in gold. So Lyra farming up nicely, and he's got that 2-level lead over Shrimp. You can see the 1,400 gold individually. Rek'Sai, though, not really a hard carry champ, but all of their gold right now is on this jungler.
Yeah, and in the mid game, I feel like that's one of the champions you least want to have your gold lead. I think Rek'Sai can do some great things in the early game from a vision control perspective and getting a lot of duels off in the jungle, but as you scale towards the late game, you're not very effective. I like the fact that he's going with the higher damage build to hopefully maybe do some split pushing and get some one-shots in, but the scaling on Rek'Sai is really underwhelming when compared to the scaling of, say, a Corki or a Xayah, where you'd much rather have the gold.
Well, absolutely the case. You're not going to see any criticism in the Lyra just here, but we'll see what comes in next, though. Baron Nashor is alive. No mountains for Envy, but they still have decent damage output. There's always the chance they get something to happen. Package used for nothing by Tyrion, and waiting to see more happen here for this one as Team Dignitas going to shove this in. Mid priority is theirs, but Tyrion can answer that closely enough. More poke on a big, but unlike the previous game, there aren't those cocoons to start things off and find those opening picks. Hakuo grabs his coins. Back to go to this side of the map.
Yeah, and it's about managing the split push right now, because I think Team Dignitas is still pretty happy scaling this one out. They have made that adaptation in Champ Select to have much more sustained damage, and they're very confident, I think, in Altec's ability to carry this game. That's where they're throwing him over into the side lanes. He's the one farming back up, and he's still just building up his crit items.
Building up. Persona feels great in the late game. Suddenly they have found Lyra. He's squishy, though the flay is in. Shen might not be enough. Shockwave only gets one. A big knock up it as well, but Lyra trying to buy some time with the ulti, cutting back towards Someday, tunneling away. He's going to stay alive. Nice tricky feet there, but now Seraph forced to flash the chases, and they're all over the wall, and Seraph going to go down. One more picked up for Team Dignitas. Yeah, they even get Lyra in the back, too.
And Someday's still going, actually. Taking on the world right now, off in the side. Team Dignitas starting to run over Envy in these team fights, especially when they can get Lyra, as you mentioned, the primary gold holder for Envy so low after the start of the fight.
And here they go for the Baron attempt. Looks like Team Dignitas looking to play it pretty fast and aggressive. There's no Shen, there's no jungler, most importantly, so Pyrian and Apollo. Maybe with help of Hakuho, maybe can try for this one. Pyrian low on mana, knocked back by Triss. The damage is there. Spike comes in. Shrimp this time will not lose the objective. And Team Dignitas up 3,000 with the Baron buff.
Yeah, turns that into a big lead. Watching this one more time. Big just roaming in. There's a Xayah in the top lane, so they know they can get the edge on this fight. Plays him out of the tunnel, great timing. Shockwaves him down, the mob procs, but they just don't give him time to have a large influence over this fight. He nearly made it out because he smartly ulted onto Someday, but the rest of the team was kind of caught in. Someday then continued, actually did finish him off, still had to dismount to get the escape as well.
Nicely done there by Someday. He's looked so good on this Kled. He had a good scoreline of the Jarvan game, but just didn't have enough impact to actually win it for the squad, but he's gotten several really high importance kills in this game. The Dive took it a 2-for-1 to kind of guarantee that there's no Baron steal. By killing Lyra, it made the Baron happen. He got the earlier solo kill onto Seraph as well, so huge stuff out of Someday here on this one. The rest of the team playing well around him, of course, as well. But it seems like it's insurance policy to keep this Kled snowball going to a certain extent. Let's see what's up next for Team Dignitas. Last Baron, they got 3 turrets with it, plus the middle inhibitor. Looking now at mid lane tier 2. Should die soon.
Yeah, big Tristana shot coming through. And this is while Kled is off in the side lane. And Envy doesn't have the right answer for it either. They're putting Apollo down here because Seraph was up top lane, maybe trying to get a turret down in his own, but they quickly abandoned that strategy. Envy feel fairly out of sorts here.
Yeah, Apollo and now Seraph both coming down to the bot side of this one. Seraph, you can taunt, you can pull turret aggro, and gonna make Someday's life a bit harder, pushing him away, but that's still several hundred health off the turret. But an injured Kled is eventually killable. More damage coming out, half HP on this one, more attacks going in with rapid fire, and Envy's still not able to pull the trigger. Nothing to be done for them just yet.
Yeah, I mean, the initiation almost has to be Lyra tunneling in or Hakuho dashing in with Seraph ulting in on the side, but Seraph is full-time defending against Someday. Bear Trap on a rope would knock him out of Stand United, so that is kind of on the table. And then, look at Someday just smacking the turret down.
Doesn't even care about being dismounted. No one's there to help him out, and Seraph can't do anything to stop this one. Fearlessness from Someday. Turret very low in the mid lane as well. Look at that same 3 turret mark like the last time Altec takes it down. There's 3 turrets with the Baron buff. Still a minute left on. Mid inhibitor could fall as well. This looks just like last game.
It does, and that's actually a game that Envy won, so Team Dignitas wants to be very careful that they don't overcommit or give any kills over here because familiar territory.
Oh, they caught out big, and here comes the package. Is this the turnaround fight they're hoping for? Seraph's alive, he's ulted in. He's there alongside Pure Redemption to buy some time as well. Do they have the chase that they need onto Keen? Bear Trap buys some time against Seraph. Morano's coming in, Feather Storm comes in, the Blade Color not going to find any targets just yet. They've taken down Lyra. It's Envy who've lost one. The re-engage now for Someday, a double kill for Altec. He wants them all, he's going to find a third. Can they get him a fourth? The flash forward, the Bear Trap. Apollo should be going down in flames. And it's a 4th pickup there for Altec, the Quadra, and it's all about Pyrian. Do you want to give it over? Where's the fantasy points? Where's the Corki?
Corki's coming out, Pyrian's watching.
Someday, help your team. He goes for the fight. It's Altec for the Penta, and he gets it on the Tristana.
6-0-1. Big difference there between the Trist and the Jhin as far as resetting these team fights in. Team Dignitas make it a quick one. 26 minutes. Send us to Game 3.
That's the game Dignitas wanted. They rewrote the last 10 minutes of the previous game and said, let's pretend we didn't throw up Baron the second time. They closed it out during the Baron buff. There's got to be like 6 or 7 times now Team Dignitas have won a game during the Baron buff. Okay, that's probably some exaggeration, but I've seen so many of these really vicious Baron takes into games closing out or being nearly over, and a great game by them in the last 10.
Yeah, and even though Altec picked up that pentakill, he only did 12,000 damage to champions on the game.
Sure.
Because Envy and Team Dignitas weren't fighting that much. And I think this game is a pretty good illustration of why it's important to adapt to the series. It felt like Envy tried to pick the same team composition 2 games in a row, but didn't have the same tools to pull it off. And then Team Dignitas had many more tools to counter it.
Yeah.
So when it did actually get to that mid to late game phase, it really all started falling apart for Envy in a very fast way.
Absolutely agree, and it was just really good to see Team Dignitas just kind of turn it on and say, we've got the leads we need. Let's go, let's go, let's go, and all those things worked out. I got to give huge props to Someday. Again, his solo kill against Seraph in the top lane, dismounting, remounting, killing him off afterwards. The fact that he got the chase down on Lyra in the team fight, that got him the Baron take in the first place. Thought he played the front line so well. And then even at the end of it, I think it was a 4v5 that won the fight in the first place, because Big got picked off, Envy wanted the battle, and then here comes Kled diving down the front line, making the fight happen. It was really, really nice. Team Dignitas, an incredibly well-played game to close it down. And now for a deeper dive on that win, let's hand it off to Dash and Mark.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. As we dive into this victory here out of Dignitas, I want to talk about immediately what Jat was talking about there, mid-series adaptations, because in this champion select, Envy ends up with 3 of the same picks that they had from the previous game. The Xayah, the Corki, and the Shen. This time only subbing out the Elise for the Rek'Sai and the subbing out the Braum for the Rakan. What are your thoughts on Envy kind of sticking with the same strategy moving ahead?
I mean, honestly, I don't hate it. I think it's a decent comp that you can easily run, and if you are able to get a small lead, which they actually had in this game, I think the Corki can become extremely annoying. Xayah scales well, and then you have enough playmaking to kind of try and blow that lead open where you can have the Rakan go in right away. It's nice to have better burst with him, something that can really follow up on that kind of instant taunt. But Corki chunks out pretty well, and maybe you have the Shen ult coming in. They have enough stuff that from ahead, they can make plays. They didn't get super ahead, though.
Right. This time around, though, you've got Someday on the Kled as opposed to the Jarvan, and we saw what kind of problems that created for Seraph in the side lanes.
That was a huge thing, as well as the Tristana being kind of a cleanup, hyper-scaling champion. Jhin, very, very strong, but Origin doesn't quite have that, like, put the ball on him, speed him up, let him go wild.
Right.
Tristana has that power with that range, and as they kind of headed into the mid-game, you know, the Envy, or Dignitas, excuse me, has clawed their way back in the game, despite the fact that the first blood went to Envy on a good invade, and then they had that dragon skirmish. Like, things were going pretty well for Envy, but they never quite blew that lead back open, and it was actually Dignitas that grabbed all the turrets early on.
Well, that as well as the Baron, right?
Yeah.
As they had kind of given away some of it around the Baron in Game 1, Game 2, they go back to that summer split Dignitas that we've seen so far around the Baron. They control it well, 2-for-0, plus the Baron off the back of this.
And
20 minutes into the game.
Jat talking about the fact that Lyra was one of the ones who really had a lot of this kind of gold advantage, and he plays this skirmish awful. He kind of tries to juke out Big, like Big's gonna throw the hook.
Right.
He just runs at the Rek'Sai until he's on melee range, and then he finally sees him, easily chunks him out right at the start of this fight, and then it's a disaster from there. The rest of the team getting an easy chase down with multiple people. Someday going really hard under that turret to secure the kill onto Lyra, which is actually what kind of enables them to get that Baron, because there's no longer the threat of a smite steal.
Yeah, from there, the game actually closes incredibly quickly, only because, again, that pressure in the side lane, Someday is able to take turrets in the face of a Shen who's taunting him under turret, and then Envy makes their stab at getting back into the game, choosing to engage here late off of a small pick onto Hako, or not onto Hako, onto
I think it was Hako.
Big. Onto Big.
Oh, Big, yeah. I was thinking
the support player
yeah.
for Dignitas. Onto Big here. Altec wound up picking the pentakill up off of this, so let's roll this out one more time. Take a look at the late game team fight.
And I mean, this is one of those things where you think you're stronger than you are, but Someday comes back in. They're trying to find another target, and Lyra goes in, almost gets onto Keen, but not quite enough follow-up. And this whole time, while he and Apollo had gone in, this frees up the backline for Someday to kind of go in for a counter engage, which allows Apollo, or Altec to just focus on the front line of Envy, who just went in. Once he finishes that off, he's able to leapfrog back into join up with Someday, finish up those couple kills, and then good guy Period, you know.
Comes out for
yeah, he's like, oh, I'll see. Maybe I defend this. Maybe you kill me. You know, we'll see what's gonna happen.
Exactly. The pentakill goes over to Altec there on the Tristana, as well as the game in roughly 25 minutes. So Dignitas able to strike back in Game 2, heading towards a Game 3, while Someday picks up player of the game this time around for the Kled. So while the Tristana gets the pentakill, it was the Kled, side lane pressure, and winning that 1v1 straight up against Sarah that really net them the victory.
Yeah, that solo kill on the side lane was kind of beginning to spell a disaster for Envy. Didn't really have a way to keep up. with that pressure, forced them into a couple situations that they probably didn't want to be in. And then in that last team fight, you saw providing a wall that made sure no one else could get involved with Keen and split up that fight.
And to be honest, throughout this split, we've actually thrown some criticism at Dignitas for their inability to win when some days on carry-like split-pushing champions. He's actually looked better with the team more often, playing those tanks and grouping as 5. This is not to say that his individual performance on carries is bad. It's that the team does not win with him on those carries as often.
Right, and Kled's one of those kind of hybrid ones that I think is perfect for Dignitas, like a Jarvan, where it has that kind of bruiser potential. It can win the matchup.
Right, if it gets real far ahead, then fine, you play the split push and let it go.
Right, which is kind of what happened this game, where Kled from ahead can really bully the Shen, but then he also is able to provide that team fight utility when he's playing things like the Camille or the Jax or the Fiora. It doesn't quite come through the same way. Rumble being another example of a champion that has a lot of individual carry potential in terms of damage, but also fits into a team fight well.
Right, now let's look at Game 3 from the perspective of Envy and how they bounce back here. Of course, they swap back onto the side that they won with in Game 1, but even that was a little bit of a comeback-mounted victory there. Is it okay for them to stick with this kind of Xayah, Corki, double ADC composition? Are they just about finding the better tools again to support those two?
It's hard to say, because I feel like if you're giving up Ori Tristana, it's really dangerous to take this double ADC, because while they do have a lot of strong early laning phase, they're not the type to really snowball a game that easily. It's a lot about poking people out and sieging. And then when you're against a Kled, Ori, Tristana, if you don't close the game out quickly, they're going to have a lot of engaged tools and a lot of team fight potential. So either you need to match the team fight a little bit better, or potentially find things that can also snowball harder. Shen, not great for doing that.
Team Dignitas, they adapted well in Game 2. Now it's time to see if Team Envy can do the same in Game 3. The series concludes when we come back after the break.
It's Envy who've lost one. The re-engage now for Sunday. A double kill for Optic. He wants them all. He's going to find a third. Can they get him a fourth? The flash forward. The bear trap. Apollo should be going down in flames. Help your team. He goes for the fight. It's Altec for the Penta. And he gets it on the Tristana.
6-0-1. Big difference there between the Trist and the Jhin as far as resetting these team fights in. Team Dignitas make it a quick one. 26 minutes. Send us to Game 3.